Oilers Now digital content is sponsored by Legacy Heating and Cooling. No payments and no interest for a year. That's how you build a legacy.
Hello, Pierre. How you doing?
I'm all right. What's going on there, Mr. Stauffer?
Well, what's
connect?
Yes, it's just the way it's worked out here over the last couple of weeks. Tell me this: because last Wednesday we were flying to Winnipeg during the show. Do you have any sort of? I mean, you have these stories, and Kovalenko's dad getting into it, and all hell breaking loose. Greg Hoggett was not a dirty player; he was an undersized, good offensive player that punched above his. You know who he was a bit like for me? Maybe not quite the same political views, but to Anthony D'Angelo. Like a guy like that, right? Kind of but he could move the puck, and D'Angelo could move the puck, and he was not timid. I'm sure you've seen some wild things over the years, excluding, of course, your beloved Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, you put me on the spot. I don't know what I can share here.
That's a matter of public record, right?
Yeah, I'd have to think about that. You'll have to come back to me next week on that.
There we go. You know what? Why don't we do this? Why don't we start with Vancouver, okay? Because I can't quite figure out. Okay, so they make the trade for Quinn Hughes, and I think most people think they got a pretty good return from Minnesota for Quinn Hughes. Can I ask you why they would healthy scratch Zeev Boyum? If he is... If you're, it's clear now the messaging coming out of Vancouver the last few days, they realize the position they're in. They're rebuilding, okay?
Yeah.
And just play your young players then. And there's even been inconsistency with the veterans. Like Jake DeBrusk has struggled 5-on-5. Okay, fine. He gets healthy scratched for a game. Brock Besser has 1 goal in the last 28 games and is minus 26 on the season. So why does DeBrusk get scratched and Besser doesn't? And why are you scratching the big piece that you got back in the trade for Quinn Hughes? I'm like, my attitude is just play your young guys. And as for your vets, even though you're not, just kind of treat them the same. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I see it. Tell me why I'm wrong or whether or not you agree or disagree.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'd say, and I haven't talked to Vancouver about this, but just in general, when a young player gets scratched sometimes, what I've heard over the years from coaches and GMs is that there is sometimes a little reset in the press box.
Sure.
Isn't a terrible thing, as long as it's not a long stretch. That you can learn a lot from taking a breath, watching the game from up top, and then going back in. So that doesn't bother me. But I get all the other things you said. I mean, I think that after the original bump after the Hughes deal, the Canucks actually did okay on that road trip. And I think there was a sense maybe from ownership on down that, maybe they could do more of a hybrid rebuild and this could be quicker. But I think reality has set in now more. If you obviously see Jim Rutherford made comments today as well, the media in Vancouver, and they're basically listening on almost anyone. And
right.
Aaron Dreger reported yesterday on Insider Trading that Elias Pettersson now, the Canucks are listening on him again. I would say probably all bets are off.
So I'm not one of these guys that hates in other Canadian markets, okay? In a perfect world for me in the Pacific Division, Edmonton, Calgary, and Vancouver would finish 1-2-3. That'd be great. The playoff series against the Flames in 2022 was awesome. What we experienced in 2024, though a little bit heated on the Twitterverse, to be frank with you, was nonetheless a lot of fun, Edmonton and Vancouver. So I want to see those organizations be successful. Do you think they're both kind of, I mean, if you look at the overall standings, they're both in the bottom 5 in the league. Do you think there's a degree of inevitability here as to the course of action that needs to be taken with both clubs?
Well, you asked me what I would do or what I think will happen, because I don't know if it's the same answer. I would go younger and strip it down more if I were the Flames. I just don't know if ownership will allow that, right? Blake Coleman is a player that all day they should be listening on. And I get it that they love the guy. He's character, leader.
Sure.
a year and a half left on his deal, all the more reason to see how valuable he is on the market. So I would not be hesitating. And, we'll see with Naz Kadri. Naz has a big say in his future. And as time goes on here, it wouldn't surprise me if he's willing to listen to a few situations. But that's what the Flames should be doing with their older players. Obviously, they will with Rasmus Andersson because they have no choice. He's a pending UFA. But I'd be doing it with a lot of my veterans. And I understand the hesitance in today's game when I talk to front offices, Bob, is that teams are wary of going totally young and having dressing rooms where there's not enough leadership. I mean, the Red Wings have finally gotten over the hump here this year. They look really amazing and seem to have sustainability now. But one of the things Steve Yzerman did for the last number of years in that rebuild is he never left the room completely young. There were always veterans in there. People were like, why are you signing Ben Sherratt? Well, I think that he doesn't believe in 23 players under the age of 23 that you need people to show the way and show how you do things. And I guess that's part of it too with Calgary and Vancouver is you can't go all young, but I think with the Flames, it comes down to me that there still has to be, in my opinion, more of an appetite to go young enough, or else you're stuck in no man's land. Being competitive every year shouldn't be the bar. The bar should be trying to win it all. And to do that, there has to be some pain and a willingness to really rebuild, at least at some level.
So I 100% believe in the same direction that you believe should be taken. And some of the blowback we get here is, well, the Oilers haven't won. They got gifted McDavid and Draisaitl, and I'm like, well, they have won 9 playoff series in the last 4 years. They've gone to the 7th and 6th games of the Stanley Cup final the last 2 years. And even though Edmonton right now is not one of the best 4 or 5 teams in the NHL, they still might get there by the end of the regular season. Because I believe this team, I believe this team doesn't have another gear to get to. I believe this team's got a couple more gears to get to. I mean, last night was the healthiest they've been since Game 4 of the Dallas series. It's the healthiest they've been since then. So, we'll wait and see. But I can remember having this conversation, Pierre, with Kevin Lowe back in 2006, 2007, when the Oilers went from the 7th game of the Stanley Cup final to missing the playoffs in 06, 07, and really kind of starting the decade of darkness. And it wasn't planned to have been extended that long. There's some things that happened over the course of that window. But based on what Oilers fans have experienced over the last 4 years, it's been pretty good. Like, they've won more playoff series. Neither Winnipeg nor Vancouver in their team's histories have ever won 9 playoff series in 4 years. So it's been a good run. They just haven't won the cup. That's it.
Yeah, and there can't possibly be a rebuttal to anyone not thinking that's a high measure of success. There's 32 teams in the NHL now. So first of all, let's stop going back to the original 6 or a 21-team league. There's 32 teams in the league. To go to back-to-back Stanley Cup finals, to have gone to a conference final a couple of years before that, all you can ask for, when I talk to managers around the league, when you talk about building sustainability, no one with a straight face is saying, I'm building so that we can win 5 cups. Like, that's not happening in the modern era. But you look at the Dallas Stars and why Jim Nill is the 3-time GM of the year. They haven't won, but you know what they've done is that year in, year out, the Stars are in the mix.
Yeah.
They play a lot of playoff games, and they have a core that's locked up long term. That's the model. Like, that's what you're trying to do. And Edmonton's done that. Like, the Oilers have gone extra deep, and they give themselves looks and shots. And of course, you'd rather win. You wish Game 7 a couple of years ago would have gone different, but there's 32 teams, and I can tell you that there's a lot of GMs that when they're all huddled in a room in the GM's meeting that would have their hand up to take what the Oilers have done the last couple of years.
Well, I'll make a prediction right now, Pierre. Like you talked about Detroit taking a step forward, and clearly they have. Like, they're in a good spot in the Eastern Conference. Looks like they're going to make the playoffs. Who knows? They might be the team ultimately that gets Rasmus Andersson, with the assumption that Andersson would extend there. But the team that I believe will take a step next year will be Chicago, and they're going to get Frondell. They're going to get another good pick. Nazar's been out. I know what I saw with Spencer Knight the other night in goal. That guy's a good goalie. And they'll probably add a couple veteran defensemen to all those young defensemen they have and all the picks they have. And, they got 2 number ones this year as well. I could, if they end up in a scenario where they get, who knows how high they may end up drafting this year, but Chicago's got a lot of players coming, and they're going to have a ton of cap space, and I can see them taking a big step forward next year.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's interesting, the Spencer Knight trade at the time wasn't universally applauded, and not because people didn't think he was a good goalie, he's a first-round pick, but, he'd gone through stuff, and you're kind of like, well, why is Florida trading him? Of course, they're trading him. They needed cap space for Seth Jones, and obviously Bob was winning them cups. But you still, at the time, you're thinking, that's going to be interesting. Let's see how that works out, especially every single front office will admit to your face, as you know, the whole goalie voodoo thing. I mean, who knows? Philip Grubauer is tied for the NHL lead in save percentage right now. A year ago, on January 29th, he went unclaimed on waivers. I mean, the world of goaltending is nuts. But anyway, I got sidetracked. Spencer Knight looks like the real deal, and that was a bit of a flyer for Chicago. Seth Jones wanted out, and they made the best of it. If that piece is real with everything else that they have, that building in the United Center could be rocking for sure. And I still think Anaheim, I know they've had a brutal month.
Yeah.
And they're trying to figure things out, but I still like a lot of their pieces. I think they're for real in terms of long-term sustainability. Montreal is as exciting a team as there is in the league. And I still think they'll hit a bit of a blip here at some point. But, boy, you look at their salary cap health, for one, in terms of their contract.
Oh, yeah, they're in a great spot.
And Slafkovsky take a gigantic step this year. I mean, the sky's the limit for the Habs. San Jose, Celebrini.
He's the best young player. He's the best young player in the game right now. Great.
Yeah, unbelievable. They're ahead of Chicago in the standings. I think they're realistically actually behind Chicago in the overall where it's all going to work. But I'm pretty excited for San Jose too, though, when it all settles there.
Yeah. All right, let's do some quick hitters. We're joined by Pierre LeBrun from The Athletic and from TSN. Pierre, you hearing anything at all on Andrew Mangiapane?
Really not. His agent, Alan Roy, during the holidays was calling teams, certainly trying to establish the market and see what the fits would be, but at this point, still haven't heard any tangible. I mean, that kind of trade can happen in moment's notice, obviously, but I haven't heard anything complete.
All right, awesome. Andersson, is he? Do you think he might be the first domino that goes maybe before the Olympic break?
I don't know what the incentive is for Calgary to move too quickly, because I think he's the number one rental defenseman available. And, it's the same old dilemma every year. If you wait too long, you risk injury. So you don't want that. But on the other hand, he's the most desirable commodity on defense in terms of rental defensemen. So I wonder if they wait until after the break. And, teams that are wanting to trade for him, there's also the risk of injury at the Olympics.
Yes.
So I don't know how that plays into it. He's going to get dealt, is the bottom line. The question is whether it's before the February 4th or after.
Final question for you. Do we know the severity of Brayden Point's injury right now?
So right now, the Lightning feel they ducked a big one. The way it looked, just, visually,
yes.
You're wondering if the season was over. And it won't be over. He will come back before the end of the year. I think John Cooper was trying to be as optimistic as possible with his week-to-week update last night. The reality is Point hadn't been home yet to get checked. So I think the Olympics are no slam dunk, unfortunately, right now. I certainly hope he's ready for them, and everyone around Team Canada and the Lightning are hoping he's ready. But I'm not in a position where I think that's for sure. I think that's where the concern is.
Theoretically, if he can't go, Bennett, Hyman, Scheifele.
Yeah, I think the group, Bennett was the most difficult cut from Four Nations, for sure. But I think the debate internally is, do we need to replace Point if we have to replace him with a similar skill set, a similar build? And Wyatt Johnston of the Stars is probably the most similar player. On the other hand, if you're just looking for a right shot to play in the top six, there's a guy in Chicago that is pretty good. Seth Jarvis is another right shot. So that's if they care about the right shot, and I think some of the group do. If they just care about taking the next best player that, not next best, because obviously Connor Bedard's super talented, but the guy that they most regret not taking is probably Sam Bennett.
Yeah.
The bottom line is the debate to me is inside that group is if they have to replace Point, are we replacing him directly in his role, or are we re-examining the roles in our lineup internally, moving someone up, and then bringing someone else in? So there's two different avenues to go. But I'll tell you this, I think Brayden Point, who played on the same line as McDavid for part of the championship game at Four Nations, I have a feeling that's where he was going to start in Milan. And he may still. We'll see how he is. But so that's a pretty big spot in the lineup.
Yeah, I have a feeling you'll be calling Jerry once in a while. Thanks for your time.
Okay, sounds great. Yeah, Bob.